What about Xena, the warrior princess? She's a great ex.
Man, you should have that one in your back pocket yesterday.
Yeah. Where was that one?
Yeah, I needed it in the moment. I choked.
As a young boy growing into manhood in Australia, there's a lot of Xena warrior princess in this boy's life. Don't you feel like
you were a big?
She's a hero to Australian boys. I also actually just started watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is a huge win. It's like, see you later, Paw Patrol. We actually watch a real show because I actually quite like Buffy.
Big jump.
Buffy's great.
Buffy's really good.
Anytime you get the kids into something like you like, as you well, right? Yeah.
Producer Pete is asking me if people get killed on Buffy.
It's a big jump.
They
Paw
do.
Patrol to
I don't know if you know this, Pete. It's called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When you slay, you kill the vampires. So yeah.
Right.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry.
Welcome to Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Jay Croucher, Lawrence Jackson, Matthew Berry, Xena the Warrior Princess, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They drink free today, Matthew.
Yeah, you know what, and you
It's love-hate, by the way.
Well, it's love-hate day all the way. But so right, Xena Warrior Princess was an inspiration, if you will, to a young Jay Croucher as a boy growing into manhood in Australia. Not much to do
Still
in
trying
Australia.
to reach manhood.
Haven't gotten there. Haven't gotten there. Yeah, Cade. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name.
Cade.
Yeah, exactly. And he says Lucy Lawless was flawless in some of those Xena scenes. If you know, you know.
Flawless,
LOL. There's no question about it. And for a certain age of the population, Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, also right up there in the Parthenon of childhood crushes.
Parthenon.
Yeah, sure. Lawrence, who was yours? Who was yours growing up?
I don't know, J-Lo.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
J-Lo.
J-Lo. You don't have to explain it. I'll tell you mine. I'm dating myself a little bit here, but mine is the.
Was it Audrey Hepburn?
No, screw you. No, it's not Audrey Hepburn. But mine is the all-time classic, which is it's Kelly Kapowski. It's Tiffany Amber Thiessen. Come on, Kelly Kapowski is the all-time goat of childhood crushes.
Yeah.
Spans many generations. She's talked about this before as well. I was a big Winona Ryder fan, especially in college.
Reality Bites?
Oh,
yeah.
A big Winona Ryder fan.
I thought Ethan Hawke was punching way above
his weight.
You guys are going TV sitcoms here. I said, J-Lo, I like to switch mine to Maya from Family Matters. That was,
Really?
Yeah. That
Interesting.
Was over Laura Winslow.
Yeah.
Laura Winslow was the bigger name.
Right. That's the one Urkel was in love with. Urkel was in love with Laura Winslow.
Yeah, and the one he didn't want was Elmira, but she loved him.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She
Honestly,
was the one.
I'll tell you, pretty much any cast member of Beverly Hills 90210 or Melrose Place I was in on as well.
Comment from Chummy Leather Daddies. This is not me. Terrifying profile picture as well. Barry looks like a Betty White type.
Yeah.
That's a great comment, Chubby Leather Daddies.
Listen, Chubby Leather Daddies. There will be no Betty White. As long as I'm alive, there will be no Betty White slander on this stage.
I'd also like to change mine, by the way. Not Xena or Buffy. For me, Dana Scully from The X-Files.
Oh,
Gillian
sure.
Anderson, who is about your age now. Looks a lot better than you do.
I know who doesn't.
Nobody said Topanga?
Topanga's a big one. Everyone loves Danielle Fishel. Sure. And what's crazy is if you follow her on Instagram, she still looks exactly like Topanga.
She sure do.
And she talks about that all. She has a fun. She has a fun feed as well. So I'd be curious who the regulars chime in with theirs as we get into love hate. But I'm telling you, Kelly Kapowski is the undisputed champ.
But them Saved by the Bell gals. All of them was on point.
Lark Voorhees?
Yes. And then, I don't know her real name, but Jessie Spano.
Jessie, of course. Jessie Spano, sure, of course.
Okay.
Elizabeth Berkley. That was played by Elizabeth Berkley.
All right.
You should rent Showgirls one day. All right, here we go.
I saw that one.
Lawrence isn't old enough to rent Showgirls. Lots to get to today. Love hates. We're going to give out our best bets for Chargers Vikings. Interesting Thursday night football game. Looking forward to that. We'll give our breakdown there. But let's start off with the running backs. And we heard from Breece Hall, who makes the love list, not losing faith in the team.
I think we have a very strong nucleus of our team, and our coaches do a very good job of bringing the juice every day and keeping us in it. But I wouldn't say I'm necessarily worried. We still gotta like I said, we still got to show up to work every day. Guys got families to feed. Guys got kids to take care of. There's a lot of, other parts of motivation. Guys are natural competitors as well. So, like I said, I wouldn't be as worried about, the morale of the team. I think we all are very hungry and all want to win.
If you listen closely, he's almost able to talk himself into it. No, that was the most uninspiring, we still believe in ourselves talk I've ever heard.
That man done brought the kids into it.
Yeah, we got kids to feed. Like, you're an NFL running back.
Yeah.
The kids
Don't
not in
make no
trouble.
kids watch that.
He also said that he's not worried. I'd be very worried if I was Breece Hall about the New York Jets and their current state. But, Matthew, if you're ever going to get right, it's going to be against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. Breece Hall comes in at number 8 in the rankings.
Aloha Brick saying Breece Hall looks like he's forced to read a teleprompter. Free Breece. Good point, Aloha Brick. Strong comment. Absolutely. It definitely had a hostage video feel to it. Like, I'm definitely not being held against my will. I'm definitely happy here. Here's what I will say about Breece Hall. You see him right there. He's number 8. You have to couch everything with the idea, there are 6 teams on a bye, and we also have a ton of injuries to deal with. So the ranks look differently than they might. And I hear you out there. I already know what you're saying. You're saying, listen, Barry, you put Breece Hall on the love list last week. And then some of us clapped back at you, said, really? Against the Carolina Panthers defense, they're pretty good? And I said, yeah. But they've been struggling against pass-catching running backs, and I believe that Justin Fields will be – there's no way Justin Fields can be as bad as he was the week before. And so, yeah, Breece Hall's on the live list. That was last week. I was wrong. That was wrong. You guys were right. He should not have been on the love list. He stunk last week. The Jets stunk last week. Justin Fields stunk for a second week in a row. And yet, here I am, back again. Make no mistake, the love list at least is bold. At least I'm back again. And the reason is you had me at Cincinnati, right? Every single game this year, Jay Croucher, the Cincinnati Bengals have allowed at least 16.9 fantasy points to a running back. So you're telling me there's going to be a running back that gets at least 16.9 fantasy points in this game. Well, Breece Hall is a running back.
There he is.
Ipso, ergo, facto, ipso facto, bingo, bango, obviously.
Bang it out, Derrick.
Right.
Bang it out.
Ergo, Breece Hall makes the love list. He gets a lot of work here, especially if Tyrod Taylor is under center and he's less than 100%. I think they hand off quite a bit. Running backs that have seen at least 15 touches against your Cincinnati Bengals, Lawrence, are averaging almost 20 fantasy points per game. Aloha Brick's on fire today.
Aloha Bricks. Breece Hall got the same energy when Connor found out he lost to Todd Zeal for the Emmy. That's a very good comment. By the way, Connor just lost again yesterday. Another loss. That's why he's not here today. He'll be back tomorrow after he loses another Emmy.
We have started to, just so everyone knows, we have here at the Happy Hour, we have started to look actively for awards that Connor is good enough to get nominated for, but not win. Because we like that bit so much.
Yes.
We want him to. So anyone out there, we've put him up for a Webby Award.
Right here.
Yeah, what do you got?
I got you one right here. Because he hosts this show 4 out of the 5 days a week. Jay hosting right now, right? So you can have a Fantasy Football Happy Hour Host of the Year award. He's certainly good enough to win that.
Yeah.
Right, but he won't.
But because he's not the only one who does it, well then.
Yeah, that's going to be a peacocky. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. If you want a strong bet, Connor gets nominated but loses Host of the Year in the Peacockies at the end of the year.
I actually recently found out, it's like the 40 under 40, like Sports Business Journal does. I think Forbes does as well. Connor came 41st, so I just narrowly missed out.
Wait, hold on.
40.
Hold on. Yeah,
he
was on it.
Yeah.
And he was 41, and you were.
First or second. Yeah. I don't believe they list 1 to 40.
Yeah. They don't put it in order, but
any case. All right, moving on. Devin Achane. It's been an up and down season, mostly down for the Miami Dolphins. Achane has had his moments, though, and if he's ever going to get right, it's going to be in a game against the Atlanta Falcons' run defense, which cured Christian McCaffrey's efficiency. And I get that George Kittle came back, and that was probably a big part of it. It's not like George Kittle turns you from a 3 yards per carry running back into a 5.5 yards per carry running back. The Falcons, they just don't have big people on their defensive line or on their defense. They can be run on, and if the Dolphins are ever going to lean into the run, it's going to be after Tua Tagovailoa just threw a million picks against the Browns. So I think that the Dolphins, they try and establish the run and they lean on Devin Achane.
I really like that call, Jay, because even when you go before that 49ers game, when the Falcons played the Bills, they were all over the passing game and Josh Allen and getting pressure. They went to James Cook in the third quarter. He had 9 carries for 53 yards against the Falcons. It was working. and they just stopped doing it. Well, the 49ers wasn't that dumb. They're not going to take the ball out of their running back's hands. And Christian McCaffrey has his best game on the ground last week, so I do see it. And for that reason, the Falcons aren't stout up front on defense, but they're fast and athletic, so that definitely makes sense there.
Their strength of the defense is that secondary, which is the number 1 pass defense over the last 4 weeks, but they're 29th against the run over the last month. So I'm with you on Achane.
Yep. King Henry, another guy who can get up off the schneid, is superstar quarterback Lamar Jackson is back, and he has a matchup against the Bears, where the Ravens are pushing towards touchdown favorites.
Yeah, off the bye, hopefully Henry is a little bit fresher. I have a friend that literally tried to trade for Derrick Henry, offered me Quinshon Judkins.
You don't want to do that?
I'm still thinking about it. I have to literally think about this week, and I do love him this week. Again, I need to win this week, Lawrence. I'm playing Adam. This is my Super Bowl. This is my chance to get up the schneid, to put a W on the board here as well. My awful team, the worst team I've ever owned in fantasy football in 30-plus years of playing. At any rate, he's playing the Bears. Literally only two teams in the NFL have given up more 20-yard runs to running backs than the Chicago Bears. And running backs that see at least 10 or more carries against Chicago, averaging 5.4 yards per carry. Obviously, they're going to run Derrick Henry quite a bit. Ravens actually have the 3rd highest implied team total in Week 8. So I have Henry as a top 10 play. I know it hasn't been great. Believe me. No one knows it better than I how it hasn't been great. But in a game where the over-under is 49.5, we expect a lot of points to be scored. The Ravens, believe it or not, are actually 6-point favorites at home, despite the fact that Bears are 4-2, right? The Bears
are 4-2.
Bears are 4-2, and right, the Bears are 1-5 or whatever. Ravens are 1-5.
They're still our most favorites to win that division. Like them and the Steelers is real close right now. But Derrick Henry had a good time, a good game last time out. 24 carries, 122 yards versus the Rams when they had Cooper Rush. So. He's solid. He's getting a little better now that you get Lamar back. Their touchdown favorites, you see the implied team total. I see Derrick Henry getting in the end zone.
Yeah, I think he easily could get in maybe twice, so we will see. If I end up trading him to Jay for Quinshon Judkins, he will absolutely score twice, probably 3 times.
Or James Cook,
Yeah,
no. The one concern with Henry is that even when he had Lamar, outside of the Week 1 against Buffalo, he wasn't the Derrick Henry of last year, or at least it wasn't the rushing offense of last year. Didn't really do much against Detroit, didn't do much against Kansas City.
He had
but
the
still
one run against Detroit.
Had the one touchdown run, but still trust for the most part in the talent of Henry. And Lamar Jackson, obviously, such a cheat code. Another guy who has a good chance of getting to the end zone, Lawrence, is Isiah Pacheco, who plays his Commanders, and the Chiefs are pushing towards 2 touchdown favorites at this point.
Yeah, it's the same thing I mentioned about Pacheco when we did pregame. They were 11.5-point favorites against the Raiders. Now they sit here as 12.5-point favorites versus your Commanders, Matthew. Now, Pacheco got his first rushing touchdown of the season, so that's not the thing I'm
I'm aware. He's on Lawrence's team. He's on Lawrence's team.
I had to start him.
Right.
I didn't do it happily. I just had to do it.
But of course, the only time this entire effing season that Isiah Pacheco actually falls in the end zone is when he's against me on Lawrence's team last week.
But the beauty of it was, it still wasn't inside the 5 because they will not give Isiah Pacheco a carry inside the 5. Look, but the thing is, he had a season high 15 carries. That's the important part. It seems like they're shifting more to Pacheco as he starts to look more like himself. Brashard Smith getting in there a little bit, but they're moving towards Pacheco. And because the Commanders have the 12th worst rushing defense in the NFL, then I like Pacheco's chances again this week.
Great comment from Raise the Flags, Barry, on Monday after his loss. We all have families to feed. I still believe in my team.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely this. Let's go to camera 1 right now. I'll tell you. Look, we all have families to feed. I still believe in my fantasy team. Yeah. Next question. Yeah, is that Breece Hall energy?
Breece Berry.
Breece Berry. Thank you.
Isiah Pacheco.
There you go. Master Thespian right here.
Very favorable matchup. The one thing, it's not just the Kareem Hunt thing, it's the fact that when they do get in close, there's a little undercover. Patrick Mahomes become a bit of an Aaron Rodgers touchdown merchant inside the 5. They love checking into pass play. Had the little kind of jump pass play to it's not really a pass.
Rack up them. Look, when the Chiefs saw Matthew Stafford still throwing 1-yard touchdown passes to DeVonta Smith, Patrick Mahomes says so. Oh no, I got to give
DeVonta Adams, but yes.
Yeah. What'd I say?
DeVonta Smith.
Oh, definitely DeVonta Adams, not DeVonta Smith.
Very different players.
Yeah, very different players.
A lot of touchdowns.
Both good, very different players.
All right, let's jump to
I agree with you. There's a little bit of like just stat padding with Mahomes. Because he can, by the way.
Tony Romo was very upset about it on the broadcast.
Yeah, well,
he was like, I did it once. I didn't know I could do this my whole career. I could have racked up an extra 40 touchdowns along the journey. But if they can do it, credit to it. It's not like Rashee Rice wants a rushing touchdown anyway. He wants receiving touchdowns too. Of
course.
All right, let's get to others receiving votes, headlined by Uncle Rico, who has not a great matchup against Buffalo in terms of game script, but it is a defense that can be run on.
Yeah, the Buffalo's allowing the third most rushing yards per game to running backs last year, and at least this year, and at least last week, Dowdle averaged 5.3 yards per touch, Hubbard just 3.4. How about Tyjae Spears in a negative game script against your Colts? Titans a 14-point underdog. Tyjae Spears back-to-back games with at least 40% of the snaps and a 12% target share. And finally, Tyler Allgeier. Again, in games in which Tyler Allgeier, in wins this season, this stat's unbelievable to me. In games that the Falcons win this year, Lawrence, Tyler Allgeier averages 14.7 touches. In games that the Falcons win, Tyler Allgeier is getting almost 15 touches a game. Falcons are 7.5-point favorites here. Yep. And so I just think they like to run. They don't use Bijan as much when they feel like they've got the – so always a chance to get into the end zone here, and there's no team giving up more rushing yards per game over the last 4 weeks than the Miami Dolphins. So I do think in a buy-mageddon type week, Allgeier is a viable flex.
Yep. 100%. There's a lot of chatter about, or at least a lot of quotes about, Bijan Robinson's the best player in the NFL. His coaches like to say that. Bijan Robinson's incredible. He may well be the best running back in the NFL. He only gets 59% of his team's carries.
Yes.
Like, that's a real thing. And it lessens his value and it increases Tyler Allgeier's value because Tyler Allgeier is just legitimately good. It's two different coaching staffs now that have believed in Tyler Allgeier to give him plenty of work. So, yeah, he's not going away and he's
it's a
startable.
good change at pace for them, too, for Atlanta.
He's a very good player. All right, let's get to the hate list. Sad to see this name on there, Matthew. Jacory Croskey-Merritt, after he had a very favourable matchup against Dallas, who expected him to have a good game. A lot of it was outside of his control with the game script and Daniels going down. But disappointing game there and doesn't get any easier against the Chiefs.
It certainly does not. I mean, again, Washington, as you mentioned, my Commanders, 12.5-point underdogs to the Chiefs. They have the third lowest implied team total on the Week 8 slate. And so as double-digit underdogs, one of the concern here is that on the season, Jacory Croskey-Merritt, Bill, has a 5% target share. He's never had a game with more than 2 targets. So if they're down big, which is what we expect to the Chiefs, he's just not going to be in the field. It's going to be Jeremy McNichols. Very quietly, as much as we love the explosiveness, as much as we love the story of Jacory Croskey-Merritt, Bill has now had under 11 fantasy points in 5 of the 6 games he's played this year, including the 2 Marcus Mariota starts. And so I'm going to have to start him on my crappy team because I just don't have anyone that's going to touch the ball, and I'm hoping he falls in the end zone. But, like, he's on the hate list. He's my running back 25. If you could avoid starting him, I would. Now, again, some of the numbers are, he's lost a couple of fumbles, so that's minus 2 points. So without the fumbles, maybe the numbers look a little bit better. But still, nothing here points to him having a great game.
Yeah, for those couple of weeks, and it started with the Chargers, he was starting to get that volume, and that's what we really like. That's what we wanted to see be consistent. But to your point, if they do so fall behind, then it's going to be a tough situation seeing McNichols come in when you have to actually start him in your leagues like you do.
Yep, another rookie running back who had high expectations last week and delivered, unlike JACM, was Quinshon Judkins, who got the 3 touchdowns against the Dolphins. He wasn't particularly efficient, though, and I don't think that was his fault because his yards after contact were phenomenal. Sure. It's just that he wasn't getting any yards before contact. Now it's a really tough matchup with the Patriots.
And one thing is for certain, if they get near the goal line, they'd rather snap him the ball and let him run it in than to just run a regular offensive play. But that's the Dolphins' run defense. Now you're going against the Patriots, who allow the 6th fewest fantasy points to running backs. They've only allowed 59 rushing yards per game and 2 total rushing touchdowns this season to running backs. Quinshon Judkins had 3 touchdowns last week. The Patriots have given up 2 this year. Ashton Genty, Devon Achane, who we like this week, James Cook, Jalen Warren, Alvin Kamara have all been held to 50 rushing yards or under versus this New England Patriots defense. So for Quinshon Judkins in such a conservative offense where if you're the defense, you know they want to run the ball and you know they're not going to throw the ball past 4.5 yards, yeah, they're going to throttle down and they're going to play that run, so it's going to be tough for him this week.
Yeah, by the way, I'm turning down the trade. Just for this week, yeah. That's very convincing, Lawrence. I'm happy to revisit it next week. I'll give you Jacory. But this week, I need Derrick Henry over Quinshon Judkins. I'll give you Jacory Croskey-Merritt for Quinshon Judkins.
No deal. Not even close. Throw in Derrick Henry, we might have a deal.
No.
Question from Ved, Judkins or Scatterboo rest of season? That's close.
You know what? That is very close. I'm going to say Judkins. Just because I feel better about his role. I'm a little nervous about Scatterboo because Jackson Dart is a threat. I feel like they will ramp Tyrone Tracy up a little bit. Scatterboo's still going to be the Giants running back you want. But I feel I could see a scenario where Scatterboo gets game scripted out, where Judkins is just like, it doesn't matter. They're going to, like he's
Well, against Pittsburgh, Judkins was limited to 12 carries, 36 yards when they got behind, so there's that. So you got something. There's something there, but
yeah, and it's a close one. And obviously Scatterboo's more involved in the passing game than Judkins is. But I'm going to still say with Judkins.
Yeah, I would go Judkins.
Yep, Judkins for me too. He's just the fact that he gets work even in blowout losses. Is that he get like 20 carries against the Lions when they lost by 20 plus points. Quickly, Woody Marks on the hate list for me. Difficult matchup against San Francisco. Games hovering around Pig. Not sure if Nico Collins is going to play, and they may see the Judkins treatment where you're just loading the box. The Niners, even though they're missing Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, still a very well-coached Robert Saleh defense. And the one thing about them too is they tackle. They didn't let Bijan Robinson get free at all. And if Bijan Robinson can't do much on the ground against the Niners, I don't think that Woody Marks will either. Let's jump to love-hate pass catches, where we heard from Rashee Rice on his big return last weekend.
Yeah, it meant a lot more today. You don't really notice how much you love something until it's gone or possibly could be gone. I was able to get a glimpse of that, and, I don't ever want to feel that again. So just being able to be out here with my brothers, that's like the most love I've had in a long time. I felt great. I think it's a glimpse of what's possible and what's to come. This was our first game being able to play with each other. Like you said, Coach said I had, a minimum amount of plays, so maybe with more plays, more touchdowns, not even just from me, but from everybody else, from, just being on the field consistently.
Okay, Rashee Rice.
Yes.
Excellent return. He's heavily featured.
He did a lot on the minimum amount of plays.
10 targets, 4 red zone targets. Targeted on 52% of his routes. When he was out there running a route, Patrick Mahomes was looking for him over half of them, and that's right. You see him right there.
Wide receiver
number 4.
Wow.
Wide receiver 4.
Like his jersey number.
Yes, damn right. You're like, why is Rashee Rice on the love list? Because he's a top 4 wide receiver for me this week. Jay Croucher. He gets my Commanders. My Commanders are terrible, right? They're allowing the most yards per game to the slot so far this season. No, they're allowing the most yards per game to the slot for the season, which is where Rashee Rice lines up a decent amount as a kind of a big slot for the Chiefs. And they're also giving up the 4th most yards after catch to opposing wide receivers. So again, this is Monday Night Football, like big stage. I think, you talk about Mahomes and sort of like this, padding the stats a little bit. I did a radio interview earlier today, and I was asked about Mahomes and, can he keep this up? And I said yes, because I said, I don't have a stat to prove this. We've talked about this on the show a little before. I don't have a stat to prove this. I can't prove it in a court of law. But I think Patrick Mahomes, after having the worst game of his professional career in the Super Bowl, given all the stakes and the stage of that, everything, like I would argue that's the worst game of his career. And just getting their asses kicked by the Eagles, that Patrick Mahomes came to the season and said, with a chip on his shoulder, saying, like, listen, I'm still a bad man. And no one's, everyone's saying the dynasty's over. I want to go scorched earth here. I want to prove them wrong. As a person, he's not that guy to talk boastfully. He's always respectful at the podium, and he's just, he does it with his actions, not with his words. But that's what I think. I think he wants to put up numbers every single week. I think he wants to win the MVP this year. Obviously, he wants to get the team back to the Super Bowl. So, I think he will continue to pad the stats, including against my Commanders on a national platform, Monday Night Football.
Yep.
At home, this is the perfect setup for Mahomes to just go nuclear.
Yep. I will say as well, Mahomes' credit, I think he is padding the stats a little bit with the touchdown stuff in close. He will, to his credit, which is what Aaron Rodgers never will do. If it's 3rd and 17, he'll chuck it up for grabs, and he doesn't care if he gets picked because he doesn't care about the interceptions. But and that's what you should do on 3rd and 17, just chuck it up because otherwise you're punting anyway. So Mahomes still the best quarterback in the game. T. Higgins playing with the second best quarterback in the game, Lawrence Joe Flacco, and he gets a very favourable matchup against the Jets, who might be missing Sauce Gardner.
Look, the Jets are a bottom 10 run defense. They have a top 5 worst offense, and then they have a top 10 pass defense. Now, we know why that is.
Nice use of air quotes.
Right. It definitely needed them. But this is all about having Joe Flacco. This is all about the volume. 45 passing attempts in Joe Flacco's first start, 47 in the next one. So you get that. That's plenty for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. He's had at least 5 receptions with 8 targets in his 2 starts with Joe Flacco. So now you think about all of that. Then you think about the Jets, and we could talk about whether Sauce Gardner will play or not. But hell, if I'm throwing the ball up and it's T. Higgins versus Sauce Gardner, give me T. Higgins all day just on the strength. So all that being said, love T. Higgins this week because obviously we love Jamar Chase every week.
Yeah, I would say it's very strange, but the 2 most interesting players in football to me this week, 1, Oronde Gadsden, who we're going to talk about a bit later, and 2, Jamar Chase. Because we've never seen anyone just get like 17, 18 targets a game. Yeah. Could this, Joe Flacco is a complete outlier. Amari Cooper, in his last 3 games with Joe Flacco, had like 450 receiving yards. Like, what if Joe Flacco, this is what he does? Because he wants to get the ball out quick, he doesn't want to get hit, and he's just going to throw to the first read, and the first read separates us.
And at some point, we know he's going to start throwing them picks, but if you're throwing picks, throwing the ball to Jamar Chase, you ain't going to get in trouble for that.
Yeah. All right, question from Bobby Showtime. Great name. T. Higgins or Rome Odunze rest of season, Matthew?
It's close. I'm going to say Rome Odunze here. I just, again, we love the Flacco story. He's still an over 40-year-old quarterback behind a bad offensive line. I feel better about the young offense in Chicago there with Odunze. So it's close, but especially, by the way, because there is a chance that Jamar Chase gets a 40% target share.
Let's see. He's had a 42% target share with Flacco so far.
So I'm going to say Rome Odunze here.
Yeah, it is agree? Close. No, I do agree because there's going to be those games, and this even happens with Joe Burrow when it comes to T. Higgins. There's going to be those games where it's 3 catches for 13 yards. Like, T. Higgins is just going to have them type of games.
Yep. No, I agree. I think the other thing, too, why Rome has fallen a little bit is that the Bears have had run game scripts the past 4 weeks and all these wins. The Bears are solid, but they're not going to be playing with the lead so frequently. The Bears, they go head-to-head with the Ravens and Zay Flowers. Matthew?
So far this season, really quietly, he's had a 29% target share. He's had at least 8 targets in 4 out of 6 games. And the reason I bring up that 8-target mark that he's had in the majority of his games this year is that wide receivers that see at least 7 targets against the Bears so far this year, they're averaging 18.9 fantasy points per game. Bears have allowed multiple touchdown passes to wide receivers in back-to-back games, and so Zay Flowers out of the bye. This is all assuming Lamar Jackson is back, by the way.
He'll be back.
If we wake up tomorrow and Cooper Rush is starting or Tyler Huntley, all bets are off.
Cancel
this off. Don't clip this. Don't clip this
just
out
kidding.
And then just say, wow, why does Barry love Zay Flowers? No. This is just all assuming
Lamar
Jackson
Cooper
is back.
Rush will get you. He'll give Zay about 5 for 50.
I do think, given the way the season is and coming out of the bye, I do think the Ravens' offense is going to be a lot better, and the team is going to be a lot better. So I have Zay Flowers, believe it or not, as a top 10 play this week. He's my wide receiver 9.
Yep, I like it.
Yes, the Zay Daddy.
Okay, all right. A.J. Brown makes the love list for me going up against the Giants. I think the Eagles really figured something out last week against Minnesota. That's the best game I've seen Jalen Hurts play regular season in his career. He was magnificent, perfect passer rating against the Brian Flores defense. And the key for me with A.J. Brown, it's not so much anything statistically. It's just that he just looks right again. And he didn't look right the first month of the season. He wasn't creating separation. He wasn't beating man coverage. He'd look like the old A.J. Brown against the Vikings. He also looked fine when they played the Giants a couple of games ago. It's just the rest of the game got out of hand. I do think there is a revenge factor that will loom large with the Eagles here as they look to stick it to the Giants and don't want to go 0-2 in that matchup this season. Another kind of revenge matchup, although apparently not a revenge matchup, Matthew. The Steelers Steelers face Tucker Kraft and the Packers.
Yeah, the Tuckler, the Tuck Daddy, Tucker McGee. I don't know, I'm making this up. What I'll say is that it's a it's a nice matchup against the Steelers. For the Steelers defense, as we've talked about, the Steelers defense is not the Steelers defense of old. You can honestly run on them and you can throw on them, especially if you're a tight end. Pittsburgh has given up at least 14 points to a tight end in 3 of their past 4 games. They allow the 5th most yards per game to opposing tight ends. So you see it right there, Tucker Kraft, my tight end 5. Sunday night at Pittsburgh. We will be there, by the way, on the turf at Acrisure Stadium. Jay, Lawrence, and myself for fantasy football pregame this Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern.
George Savarickas is suspended.
George Savarickas, I don't know. He's making K-pop Demon Hunters fan fiction.
He didn't qualify to the 40-yard dash final.
Yes, exactly. He did not make it right. Exactly. So anyway, Savarickas won't be there, but the 3 of us will be. We'll be on the stadium at Acrisure Stadium. We'll see if we get more respect from the security guards because
I'm not ready to talk about that.
Last year
we couldn't get on the field last year.
They were a-holes last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was one of the great showdowns of our times.
Yeah.
real Mahomes versus Brady moment.
This short, fat little. Come on. That guy was.
Hey,
wow.
Just imagine, you guys out there, you've met short, fat people with egos. So here's this guy. Anyway, whatever.
Wasn't great scene.
He was
in the wrong. He had an attitude.
Yes.
I didn't care for it.
This is somebody that had a modicum of power and took it
just a little bit.
Just literally like this much as a security guard and just took it to the nth degree. And to the point where his bosses were apologizing to me and us and it became a whole thing.
From Tom Garrett.
You're damn right, Tom Garrett. I am the grudgler. That one I will embrace. You're goddamn right. I'm the grudgler. Yeah.
And you know it, it'll probably one of them tight jobs where it's like, hey, just make sure everyone get through safely and things like that. He took it to the max.
Yeah. I assume NBC has burnt all the clips of our previous shows, but go back and watch the show after Cowboys-Steelers last year on Sunday Night Football, because Matthew absolutely went on a tirade against this, to be fair, very annoying security guard. Brian Murphy sounds like Paul Blart put the clamps on the ankler.
I would have killed for Paul Blart.
He said he put the clamps on.
And the ankler. He did. But by the way, I'd have killed for Paul Blart. Paul Blart, much more professional than this guy.
Said he locked him up like Dion in 95.
Unbelievable. All right, others receiving votes. A man that they couldn't put the clamps on last week, Matthew, DeVonta Smith.
Over 60% of his targets this year have come in the slot. Giants allow the 3rd most yards per game to the slot. DeVonta Smith, the top 13 play from this week. How about Courtland Sutton in a matchup against the Cowboys, who've allowed the most touchdowns on deep passes this season? We know Bo Nix likes to throw it deep to Courtland Sutton. That as a top 15 play. QJ playing tonight. We like him a lot. Vikings allow the 2nd highest completion rate on deep passes, including giving up 3 touchdown passes last week on deep passes. QJ is a top 20 play for me this week. Tight ends, of course, we talked about Dalton Schultz on the waiver wire show, but since week 3, Dalton Schultz is the 8th best tight end in fantasy on a points per game basis. Dalton Schultz, that's the world we live in, that it is a Dalton Schultz world. 4 straight games with at least 5 or more catches. Nico Collins banged up, may not be able to play against the Niners. Schultz a top 10 play for me. And how about Cade Otton? In games that Mike Evans has missed over the last 2 years, Cade Otton is averaging over 14 fantasy points per game, has a 22% target share, going against the Saints, who have allowed 3 touchdowns to opposing tight ends in just their last 4 games. So Cade Otton, a top 12 option in this Bimageddon week 1.
Yep. Dalton Schultz, by the way, is going to be the number 1 option, potentially, for an NFL team in this economy. All right, let's get...
Potentially.
In the year of our Lord, 2025.
Unbelievable. All right, let's get to the hate list. Headlines by Jalen Waddle against Atlanta. As we mentioned, Matthew, it's a bit of a run-funnel defense, and Waddle, after starting off hot without Tyreek, hasn't been so good lately.
He certainly hasn't. And for all the reasons that we like Devon Achane, as you mentioned, it's the reasons we don't like Jalen Waddle. Again, you can run on the Falcons. You can't really throw on them. They're allowing the 2nd fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers this year. Only 2 wide receivers, literally the entire year, only 2 wide receivers have scored 12 or more fantasy points against Lawrence Jackson's Falcons. Dolphins have a bottom five implied team total in week 8. So Jalen Waddle, even though he's been getting wide receiver 1 looks and production on the road at Atlanta and even in a Bimageddon week, he's just merely wide receiver 25. He's on the hate list. You probably don't have a better option than to start him, but lower expectations for him. I think this is a good game for your Falcons, Lawrence. Bird up.
It better be, because the Falcons, the loss will be as bad for them as it would be for the Dolphins.
If the Falcons lose this, that's like season on life support. You can't go to 3-4 losing to the Dolphins. Sticking in that game, hey, listen to me, Kyle Pitts against Miami, who are a bit of a run funnel defense, where as touchdown favorites, I think that the Falcons will be leaning on Bijan Robinson and Tyler Allgeier, the fairly low pass rate over expectation. They run the ball with a lead. And like Kyle Pitts now, it's just every week he's set at like 43.5 receiving yards on DraftKings, probably not going to score a touchdown. There's just not much there. He's just like a tight end, high-end tight end 2 that you can look for 8-9 points each week. So not super exciting. Michael Pittman of my beloved Colts. Why have you put him on the hate list?
Well, because they're going against the Titans and they're 14-point favorites.
That's true.
Also because the Titans have the 4th worst rushing defense in the NFL. So, 4th worst rush defense. We have Jonathan Taylor. Run the hell out of Jonathan Taylor, right? So, solid game for Pittman last week. Caught 7 of 9 targets for 58 yards. Got the touchdown from in close. But it should be noted, too, that Alec Pierce caught 5 of 10 targets. And we could possibly see Josh Downs come back this weekend. So, I don't really think there's a true wide receiver 1. That is Tyler Warren for the Colts. So, don't like Pittman this week. But again, buy Mageddon if you have to go with him. He's still the starting wide receiver for the Colts. But being 14-point favorites don't bode well for the pass catchers.
Yep, very egalitarian pass game in Indianapolis.
I like that. It's a big
word.
Right,
we're going to get our first break. When we come back, love-hate quarterbacks, headlined by Bo Nix on the love list.
How long did it take for the comeback to sink in and for you to kind of process it and appreciate what y'all did?
Well, I still think it's pretty crazy. I crashed after the game. I was pretty tired. I think emotionally and physically exhausted, but it was a good win for us. Obviously much better than the alternative. But that was a big one for us and a good team win. And everybody got their flowers, but I think we're all ready to move on and go play better.
Good for you, Bo Nix. Take a nap after a big comeback victory. You earned it. Always good to
Ivan Drago.
Yeah. All right, Bo Nix.
That's a good.
You look like that, though.
Yeah,
it's a good pull.
Yeah, it's an interesting look. I don't mind it. All right, Bo Nix. Strange year for Bo, but the Broncos are 5-2.
on your list, Lawrence?
Yeah.
Come on. Ivan Drago, come on.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Rocky IV, Brigitte Nielsen?
Yeah.
Come on.
But when I thought of her just now, I thought about her Flavor of Love.
Yeah, of course. Flavor Flav. Yeah, no, you have to think back to that.
Yeah,
she was Ivan Drago's wife, right? Her girlfriend in that movie? Yeah. In Rocky IV?
Yeah. Well, someone who's not Ivan Drago's wife is Bo Nix, who's number 5.
By the way, can I just take 1 minute here? I just want America to know this. This is the torture that is my life. Again, I can barely remember my kids' names, but somehow there's a brain synapse in there that has that, Brigitte Nielsen played Ivan Drago's wife in Rocky IV 30 years ago or whatever the hell it was. How I haven't drinking that brain cell away, but that I can't remember my blood type. It's just,
Drinking, definitely not a word.
Yeah. That's how it goes with sports stats, too.
Yes.
Right? You going to know who running back 5 was this particular week. But,
yes.
All right.
But my wife's, mom's birthday, no idea.
Yeah. Well, nothing like drinking in a good Dallas pass defense for a quarterback, Matthew. And Bo Nix gets a very favorable matchup.
He certainly does. No team allows more fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. Cowboys give up 25.1. But more importantly, not only do they give up 25.1, they give up 3 more points than any other team. So they're not only bad, but they're significantly worse than every other team in this particular category. They're also giving up the second most touchdown passes of the season. So Bo Nix coming off the big fourth quarter last week against Denver is a top 5 play for me this week. 5 of the 7 quarterbacks to face Dallas have scored at least 24 fantasy points.
Yep, another clear top 5 play. Jalen Hurts, as you mentioned before, coming off perhaps the best game of his career. Now gets the Giants' pass defense that's really banged up. Brian Burns is going to play, but is a little nicked. Also, Paulson Adebo, question mark there. And look, Saquon Barkley hasn't had a single good game on the ground this year. Like at some point, you're 7 weeks in. This is just what your offense is. The pass game has worked lately, so I think that they'll continue to lean into that a bit more than expected, and Hurts will have a good day against the Giants. Justin Herbert plays tonight, Matthew.
He does.
He gets the team that Jalen Hurts just lit up.
Yeah, exactly. Over the past 4 weeks, Vikings giving up 9 yards per pass attempt. That's the most in the NFL over that stretch. They're also giving up touchdown passes at the 4th highest rate again over the last month. And so Justin Herbert, who leads the NFL in pass attempts this season, he's had at least 38 or more pass attempts in 4 of his past 5 games. They haven't been able to run the ball given the injuries to the offensive line, the injury to Omari and Hampton. We like Kamani Vidal, but I think he's going to be more viable as a pass catcher in this game than as a runner. So Justin Herbert is my QB7. You already know that Quentin Johnston is on my love list as well. QJ, Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey. Aronde Gadsden is the real deal.
Yeah,
I'm in on Aronde Gadsden as a tight end one the rest of the way.
They might have 4 very quality weapons in that pass game.
And a defense that has so far underperformed, underwhelmed.
It's a middle-of-the-pack defense where there was hopes that it might be elite. The defense that has been elite at times, Lawrence, is Atlanta's. And you've chosen Michael Penix for the love list. Explain yourself.
Yeah, well, you know,
Bird up again.
Lot of bye weeks, right? But this is the selling point here. Well, a lot of bye weeks. But
did I mention bye weeks?
Did I mention bye weeks? There's some good stuff though. Check it out. Miami allows the 5th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. Now, the thing will be here with Michael Penix is he's only had 1 game this season where he's thrown for multiple touchdown passes. The Dolphins have allowed that 4 out of their 6 games this season. The 2 quarterbacks that didn't throw for 2 touchdowns versus the Dolphins was Justin Fields and Dylan Gabriel. So it'll be about the touchdowns for Michael Penix. As we know, he doesn't give you much on the ground, but he has averaged 268 passing yards in his last 3 games. So he's going to have to get, like some of those Patrick Mahomes cheap touchdown passes. But in a week where you got buys, you got injuries, more of a stream type play, I like Penix against the Miami Dolphins.
Yep. As a lifelong diehard Atlanta Falcons fan, as a man who cried himself to sleep after 28-3, what's the level of confidence in Penix going forward, 0 to 10?
It's solid, middling. Still got to see more. You definitely want to see him take steps up. You would have liked to see him build on that Bills game.
Yep.
And bring that to the Niners game. That didn't happen. So you want to see him light it up versus this Dolphins defense.
Yep, only had 9 career starts.
You're the general manager of the Falcons.
Yeah.
I offer you a second for Kirk Cousins. You doing it right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I would take a second-round pick.
Yeah, for Kirk Cousins versus. Hey, we don't know what Penix, so we've still got a chance this year.
Yeah.
You might want a veteran in there in case something happens to Penix or he melts down. That's my point.
They look like
Do you believe enough in Penix that you're willing to trade away a viable starting quarterback for a future asset?
Yeah, a second-round pick, definitely. They look like a 8-9 team right now just because of how they play up and down and stuff like that. So that's how I feel about them.
Okay, let's get others receiving votes. 2 guys who aren't going to get traded anytime soon, Caleb Williams and Jackson Dart.
Ravens allow the 2nd most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. We already talked about this game. 49.5 over/under. I think Caleb is a top 10 play this week. Baltimore last in pressure rate over the last month. And how about Jackson Dart? 23.6 fantasy points in the first matchup with Philadelphia. 3 of the last 4 quarterbacks to face the Eagles have scored at least 17 fantasy points. You know about the rushing, a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 for Dart. I'm as a top 12 play.
Okay, let's jump to the hate list. Headlined by a guy this year who is kind of underwhelmed. Like, the stats are fine for the most part. They're efficient, but it's not a ton of volume for Jordan Love.
Understand, with 6 teams on a bye, Jaden Daniels also hurt. There's not a lot of options to pick a quarterback that you've heard of for the hate list. Now, it doesn't do you any good for me to say, don't start Andy Dalton, right? So understood.
Don't start Andy Dalton.
By the way. Well, I have Jordan Love at QB 13, but he makes the hate list because, again, given all the buys. But he's had only 1 game this season with more than 31 pass attempts. Again, this is the team that wants to run the ball. They're 30th in pass rate. This is a team that's a bottom 3 team in pass rate. The Packers are. Steelers give up the 3rd fewest yards per pass attempt over the last 4 weeks. They're giving up touchdowns at the 7th lowest rate. I think on the road at Pittsburgh, they're going to want to run the ball. I think this is a big Josh Jacobs game. Take Acrisure Stadium out of it as well. And so I just don't see Jordan Love having a monster game. A lot of injuries around his pass catchers. We like Tucker Kraft here, but I have Jordan Love as more a high-end QB2 than a low-end QB1. Again, it's just the premise of the show is love-hate. I have to pick a hate quarterback. I wanted to pick somebody you've heard of, so I'm lowering expectations for Jordan Love, but he'll be fine as a QB2. I'm not. It's just. It's just ugly.
Just the touchdown passes haven't been there for long as much. He's got 10 and 6.
Oh, believe he was 13 fantasy points last week. Something like that is brutal.
Indeed. All right, another quarterback not likely to have a big game is whoever is in there for San Francisco against Houston's still very good defense.
Yeah, Brock Purdy could be back, or it could be Mac Jones again. But Houston allows the fewest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. They've allowed only 4 touchdown passes this year, yet they've gotten 6 interceptions. That is a crazy stat. Then you look at this over-under 41.5 for a game with the 49ers, and then C.J. Stroud on the other side. That's pretty damn low if you ask me. It's the 2nd lowest for Week 8, and they haven't just done it against bum quarterbacks. The Texans have played the Cooper Rushes of the world, but they also faced Baker Mayfield. They faced Matthew Stafford. So, with the 49ers, I think you're going to see a lot of or at least they're going to force the issue with Christian McCaffrey, but don't love either 49ers quarterback versus this Texans defense.
Indeed. To Matthew's point, it's by Mageddon, so you're going to have to start Drake May for the most part. But don't love the matchup against Cleveland. This is the best defense that he's played. Now, I think Drake May's incredible. I think Drake May's the real deal. I think he's already a top 8-ish quarterback in the league. He can do it all. His efficiency has been off the charts, but it's not a ton of volume in that offense in the pass game. They never throw when they're in the red zone. They run the ball a ton. Mike Vrabel is kind of a conservative coach. And also, the stats that have been compiled have been against, the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Bills defense, which is great, the Saints, the Titans. He hasn't had to play a ton. And so
but if
Cleveland,
he do something against this defense,
then the lid is off.
Then it's all right.
But yeah, Drake May, not expecting huge things, but you still probably have to start him in Mageddon. All right, Sunday night, Aaron Rodgers faces Green Bay for the first time ever.
What? Really?
It's correct. Yes, first time. That's what the promo says. As the Pittsburgh Steelers host Jordan Love and the Packers, Sunday, 7 Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Still to come, our best bets for Vikings Chargers. Last call is next. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the app and use promo code FFHH when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
That crown is yours.
I did not know who the crown was, but now I'm aware it is in fact yours. No one else can claim the crown because it is obviously yours.
With no doubt.
Okay, the masses thinks that the crown will belong to Jordan Addison. His alt receiving yards is one of the most popular bets, 40 plus minus 233. A lot of stars in this game. Justin Jefferson, Lad McConkey, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, all of their alt props also favorable bets. My best bet, I believe, in the Big O. The first man ever to be nicknamed the Big O, Oronde Gadsden, who was set at a mere 44.5 receiving yards. This man went 7 for 164 last week. He's had 9 and 8 targets the past 2 weeks. I believe in Gadsden. I don't believe he's 160 receiving yards, but I believe he can be 45 receiving yards tonight, so that's my best bet.
Right on. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert in 25 rushing yards. That's at plus 141. He's had
plus Money Jackson, of course.
Already. And, I like me some running Justin Herbert. It's great football, to be honest. He's had at least 30 rushing yards in 4 out of his 7 games. There's another game in there when he had 24. That's why we taking a 25 right here. Now, Minnesota only allows 10.5 rushing yards per game to quarterbacks, but they've only played 2 quarterbacks that run the ball. That's Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams gave him 58 on the ground earlier in the season. So I like Justin Herbert to kind of break that one, and then he'll probably chill out the rest of the way and get the rest through the air.
I like it. I'm taking Quinton Johnston. You already heard me talk about him on the love list. Well, his line here is 49.5. So give me the over on Quinton Johnston. We talked about this again. Like, Vikings give up 3 touchdowns on deep passes last week. They're allowing the second highest completion rate on deep passes. QJ is their deep threat. I think Justin Herbert will take some deep shots, especially on the turf on the turf here in Los Angeles. And so they'll take some deep shots against Minnesota. Vikings traveling on a short week. You always like playing defenses that have to travel halfway across the country on a short week. So I think QJ gets deep for 1 in this one, which gives you basically almost all of that 49.5. Give me the over 49.5 on QJ.
Yeah, one thing about Brian Flores' defense is they can be boom or bust. Like the Vikings, they give up explosives. Saw that with DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown last week. Like, he's very aggressive. Yeah, right. And so there are explosives to be had.
They blitz a lot until they leave a guy on an island, and you could see a scenario where QJ has a 1-on-1, they bring pressure, and Herbert just, hits him on the fly.
And Justin Herbert is a guy who certainly can extend the play to find the guy deep. Let's take a look, Matthew, at your top players for the matchup. Justin Herbert, a no doubt start. Carson Wentz, probably don't want to start him if you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting Herbert. I think both the running backs in this one, Mason and Waddle, are top 20 plays. Obviously, the wide receivers are all must-starts. Jordan Addison, we talked about yesterday, and keep it closing out. Jordan Addison's been a top 10 wide receiver the last couple of weeks as well. You just talked about Gadsden. I'm starting him. Hawkinson. So both should be a lot of fantasy points here. The one thing I want to mention is it'll be interesting to see if Aaron Jones gets activated for this game. Probably not, just activated off IR at the beginning of the year. But if he does, then Mason would probably be more in the 25 range, and Aaron Jones would be in the 35 to 40 range, something like that. But I just think it's interesting. It sort of went under the radar. They like Aaron Jones a lot, especially in this passing offense. And so even if he's not activated tonight, they've opened the window for him to return. Yeah. So it's worth looking on your waiver wire. Just see if Aaron Jones is out there. My suspicion is when he's back, it'll be 60-40 Mason to Jones. But Jones is still a good player with value, and he's out there in a bunch of leagues because people are like, leave it. So he's a sneaky grab and stash if you can afford the roster spot before tonight's game.
Going forward, how would you see Jordan Mason? You said 60-40 possibly, but would you try to trade away Mason or try to get upgraded receiver or something?
If you can. I think he's going to be more low-end wide receiver 2, high-end flex than sort of the borderline wide receiver 1, 2, running back 1-2 that he's been so far. Because Jones will cut into the receiving work. Mason will still get the goal line stuff, but they like Jones. Look, it's closing time. So you do not have to go home, but my friends, you have to go somewhere else. You can't stay here. For Lawrence and Jay, I'm Matthew. Go read 10 facts on NBCSports.com. Peace out. Love you, Kelly Kapowski. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.